Hello, beautiful Libra soul. Let me ask you something bold, right from the very first breath of this video. What if the reason you're here right now is because something divine was trying to reach you? This isn't just another horoscope reading. This is a sacred message wrapped in rhythm, timing, and frequency. And if you're still listening, that means you've already started receiving it. Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where every reading is more than words. It's a cosmic echo sent directly to your spirit. Libra, you are the sign of balance, beauty, and sacred justice. But in these days between May 10th and 15th, your scales are not just balancing your own decisions, they're weighing the energy of the universe itself. Something powerful is shifting, and you're standing right at the threshold of that alignment. Do you feel it? That whisper that brought you here? That strange feeling that the numbers you've been seeing, on clocks, receipts, license plates, aren't random at all? That's not a coincidence. That's a spiritual pulse. The kind that only awakens when your soul is tuned into something bigger than logic. And the numbers we'll uncover in this reading, 6 of them, specifically, are not lucky numbers in the traditional sense. They are activation codes, each one pulsing with a different cosmic frequency. These are confirmations from the universe itself. Think of them as celestial keys, unlocking doors that have been waiting patiently for your energy to arrive. Now I want to take just a moment, just one quiet moment, to thank you deeply for being here. Every like you leave, every comment you share, every time you subscribe or support this channel, you become a living part of this sacred circle we're building here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your energy doesn't go unnoticed. It lifts this space. It keeps the flow of divine insight moving. And it lets messages like this continue reaching the hearts that need them most. So if you've been seeing repeating angel numbers like 111, 333, or 888 lately, comment them below. That's not just engagement. That's alignment. That's resonance. That's your way of telling the universe, I hear you. I'm ready. And if you haven't seen signs yet, don't worry. This video might just be the first one. Sometimes God sends the confirmation before we even ask for it. Sometimes your answer arrives wrapped in something as ordinary as a YouTube recommendation, but touches something eternal inside you. So stay with me until the end, Libra. Not because I say so, but because something inside you is already leaning in. Trust it. Follow it. Because the codes we're about to unlock together could mark the moment your entire energetic field begins to shift. Are you ready? Sometimes, the shift doesn't come as a storm, it comes as a quiet pause. And in that pause, you begin to sense that something in your life is gently rearranging itself. That's the nature of the number 5 in your reading today, Libra. It's not chaos, it's calibration. You are not being shaken apart. You are being reshaped from within. The number 5 represents change, yes, but not all change is meant to disrupt. For Libra, whose very essence is balance and harmony, the shift comes as an invitation to reset, not to abandon your path, but to refine the way you're walking it. Mercury aligning with the North Node at this time sharpens your inner compass. You begin to ask more clearly, where am I going? And why? This alignment isn't about external movement, it's about direction, purpose, and knowing that each small step now carries the weight of long-term alignment. Think of the last few months as a building process. You've been collecting ideas, relationships, routines, some empowering, some distracting. The energy of 5 asks, what needs to stay, and what needs to go for the next phase to be lighter? But unlike other signs, Libra doesn't make drastic cuts. You recalibrate like a skilled artist rearranging the elements of a painting, removing just enough to make the picture clearer, fuller, more honest. When the Hierophant appears in the background of this energy, it suggests that this is not just change for change's sake. It's a calling toward wisdom. A chance to reroute in values that are not just emotionally comforting, but spiritually sound. And while we're not speaking in overt spiritual terms here, let's remember, wisdom is not a destination, but a practice. A rhythm. And that rhythm begins with reflection. You might find it helpful right now to pause and write down 5 values you want your days to orbit around. Not tasks. Not goals. But values. Is it peace? Purpose? Generosity? Integrity? Presence? Whatever they are, this is your time to put them on paper, not to idolize them, but to use them as North Stars. When life gets noisy again, you'll have these 5 anchors to return to, over and over again. And your body, too, is asking for a quieter kind of care. Don't underestimate how physical restoration supports emotional clarity. Perhaps it's as simple as starting your day with warm lemon water, or turning off your screen 30 minutes earlier at night. Or choosing one evening a week to simply rest. Not because you've earned it by being productive, but because you are human, and humans need space to regenerate. Rest is not weakness. It's preparation. As you realign, you'll notice that your outer world starts to gently respond. The clutter clears. The people who drain you begin to drift away. And suddenly, you have more energy. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped carrying what wasn't yours. This is what change looks like for Libra, not fire and fury, but breath and refinement. Soft colors may also help you carry this season's energy. Pastel blues and rose pinks mirror your emotional frequency right now, calm yet decisive, gentle yet strong. Surrounding yourself with tones that reflect your ideal internal state can subtly influence your daily interactions, your focus, and even your confidence. The way you present yourself, both to others and to yourself, sets the tone for how the world meets you. Above all, remember this: true balance isn't stillness, it's movement in harmony. You are not here to freeze into perfection. You are here to flow into alignment. And sometimes, as the old wisdom reminds us, the still, small voice within is the one that leads you home. So don't rush this shift. Welcome it. Name it. And let it settle in your bones. Because what you recalibrate now, Libra, will hold steady long after the noise of change has passed. There are moments in life when something deep within begins to stir, not because the outside world is demanding change, but because something inside of you is quietly rising, asking for more. This is what the energy of the number 11 brings to you now, Libra. It doesn't shout. It calls. And the call is not from the outside, it's from within. You've already begun to feel it in subtle ways, the questions you're starting to ask, the restlessness that doesn't come from anxiety, but from longing. A longing to align more fully with your purpose, to move beyond pleasing others, and to step into something more meaningful. That's not random. That's the number 11 waking up inside you. This master number appears in cycles of life where your soul is being asked to expand its vision. It shows up in the mirrors of your everyday experience, patterns, synchronicities, intuitive nudges. It's not a number of comfort, but of calling. And for Libra, who so often seeks harmony outside themselves, this moment is about returning to a deeper kind of balance, one that begins with truth. The kind of truth that can't be polished or adjusted to fit what others expect. The kind that stands, even if it stands alone. Under the light of a full moon in Aries, which is your opposite sign, this energy becomes even more vivid. Aries urges boldness, action, self-initiation. Combined with your Libra grace, it becomes a beautiful dance between knowing and doing, reflecting and choosing. And perhaps this is where the quiet wisdom of life reminds you, sometimes, the most powerful transformation begins with a single permission. Not permission from others, but from yourself. Try waking each morning with one simple practice. Write 11 affirmations. Let each one begin with the phrase, "I give myself permission to," and see what flows. You might be surprised by what truths are waiting to rise. I give myself permission to say no. I give myself permission to be seen. I give myself permission to outgrow what no longer fits. These aren't just feel-good phrases, they are activators. They are boundaries and invitations at once. They are how we begin to live more honestly, more freely. In your financial life, this is a time to be bold about the projects or ideas you've been keeping on hold. Maybe you've been waiting for the perfect moment, or fearing what might happen if you fully go for it. But when the number 11 arrives, it often signals that the green light you've been looking for is already within you. What you're building matters, not just for income, but for impact. This isn't about reckless risk, it's about sacred risk. The kind where your heart leads, and your mind helps it take shape. In love, the message is just as clear. You're not here to bend yourself into a version that makes others more comfortable. You're here to be in relationships that honor who you already are. If you've been giving too much, adjusting too much, or waiting too long, this is the moment to pause and ask yourself, what do I truly want? Not just what you've been told to want. Not what looks good from the outside. But what your soul longs for in quiet moments. This is where clarity begins to form. And in all of this, let yourself move gently. You don't need to force a breakthrough. Sometimes, the most beautiful awakening happens when we simply stop hiding from ourselves. When we begin to walk toward the life we were always meant to live. There is a passage in wisdom that reminds us, the truth will set you free. But first, you have to stop running from it. You have to welcome it, even if it feels like a stranger at first. So give yourself permission today, Libra. Permission to listen more deeply. Permission to rise, even if you don't have it all figured out. Permission to realign not just with your goals, but with your meaning. The number 11 is not asking for perfection. It's inviting you to begin. Not every lesson arrives with thunder. Sometimes, it comes in the form of quiet integration, where things you once saw as opposites slowly begin to make sense together. That's the invitation carried by the number 14. It doesn't ask you to be more or less of anything. It asks you to unite what's already within you. And Libra, as someone born under the sign of balance and grace, you are uniquely equipped to bring harmony to what others often keep divided. This is your season to no longer choose between heart and mind, emotion and logic, passion and patience. This is your moment to let them flow together and become your strength. When the Sun forms a trine with Pluto, as it does during this period, we are gifted a rare moment of empowered clarity. You begin to feel what's truly meaningful, not because someone else says it is, but because your inner compass is finally aligned. You realize that the intensity of your feelings doesn't have to overwhelm your logic. And your intelligence doesn't have to override your emotions. They're not in competition. They are collaborators. Together, they create something wiser and more stable than either could alone. That's where temperance comes in. In tarot, this card represents the delicate art of mixing. Not perfection. Not symmetry. But honest, present blending. It teaches us how to hold space for two seemingly different truths and let them exist without pressure. To make peace between the version of ourselves that wants to move fast and the one that needs time. You may feel like you're in transition right now, Libra. Like one foot is still in the past, while the other stretches towards something you can't quite define. That's okay. That's part of the recipe. Trust that you are not behind. You are becoming. This is the perfect time to take a pause, not to stop, but to reflect on how far you've come emotionally, intellectually, and energetically. You've done so much work balancing others. Now, the deeper call is to balance within. To ask yourself, what have I learned from the people who've disappointed me? What have I learned from my own reactions? Instead of resisting or regretting, you're being invited to transform. One gentle way to do this is by sitting down and writing out 14 lessons or insights that you've gained from a challenging experience. Not to justify the pain, but to understand how it reshaped you. Because growth is always quieter than the wound. But it's stronger, too. In your professional life, this is a moment to stop thinking in terms of either/or. Don't ask, should I follow what makes sense or what I love? Instead, ask, how can I structure my decisions so they serve both? What you build now doesn't need to look conventional. It only needs to feel aligned. The most sustainable success comes from the places where your natural gifts and your personal values overlap. Even if the path isn't clear yet, your clarity will make space for it. The most important thing is not to overcorrect. Stay with your rhythm. Walk gently, but don't stop. And if you're doubting your pace, let me offer you something to hold on to. In moments of uncertainty, the quiet reminder is this: you weren't made to control everything. You were made to grow through it. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Sometimes life isn't about mastering every detail, it's about making peace with the process. It's okay to not have every step mapped out. What matters most is that you show up with sincerity, that you act with care, and that you listen when your spirit says it's time to rest. In stillness, we often hear the clearest truth. And if you've ever felt like your softness was a liability, let this be the chapter where you see it as your most sacred strength. Because what you're doing now isn't small. You're building something rooted. Something balanced. something deeply yours. And that's a foundation no storm can shake. Even the most patient hearts eventually wonder if the seeds they've planted will ever bloom. You've been showing up, Libra, not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. Quiet mornings where you chose peace over chaos. Silent nights where you carried questions no one else could answer for you. And now, with the presence of the number 20, the energy begins to shift. This is the space where the world starts to answer back. The space where cause begins to meet effect. What makes this moment so meaningful is not just what's arriving, but how it's arriving. Venus, your ruling planet, is in harmonious alignment with Jupiter, the planet of abundance and wisdom. This isn't about random luck. It's about divine timing. It's about alignment, not just of the stars, but of your choices, your energy, your heart. You're not being rewarded because you've done everything perfectly. You're being met because you've stayed grounded in who you are, even when things felt uncertain. The number 20, in its simplest form, speaks to completion and readiness. It is the space between what has been and what will now begin. In the tarot, the World card carries this same vibration. It symbolizes the closing of a chapter that has taught you enough to finally step into the next one with grace, not fear. And that doesn't mean everything suddenly becomes easy. It means you've grown into the kind of person who can handle what's next, because you've already carried more than most would know. Financially, you may soon find yourself facing an opportunity that feels different from the rest, an offer, a message, a gift that seems to come out of nowhere. But you'll recognize it not because it's flashy, but because it matches the quiet frequency of the work you've already done. The challenge won't be in receiving it. The challenge will be in believing that you deserve it. And you do. One of the simplest but most powerful shifts you can make right now is allowing yourself to say, yes, I am worthy of what's arriving. In your physical body, too, this energy asks for movement, but gentle, deliberate movement. Try not to think of self-care as an obligation. Think of it as a form of preparation. A soft way to tell your system, something good is on its way, and I want to be ready for it. Even something as simple as 5 minutes of movement in the morning can shift the chemistry of your entire day. You're not fixing yourself, you're energizing what's already good within you. And if you've been feeling like your energy is scattered or drained, try focusing on coherence instead of control. You don't need to chase the things you want. When you're aligned, you attract them naturally. It's not just an idea, it's physics. Energy meets energy. When you operate from a place of wholeness, what's meant for you finds its way more easily. You stop grabbing for crumbs, and start becoming the table where abundance is served. There's a quiet truth that comes to life in this space. Sometimes, the most powerful prayer isn't please, but thank you. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the strength I didn't know I had. And in those small, grateful acknowledgements, your field opens even wider. Not to ask, but to receive. So if the doors begin to open this week, and they will, walk through them with your head held high. Not because you forced them to open, but because they were always yours to enter. Remember, Libra, blessings are not proof of your worth. They are reminders of it. Keep choosing the kind of balance that honors both your effort and your softness. This is your moment. And life, finally, is beginning to respond. Some energies don't speak in words, they speak in the way you suddenly understand something that used to confuse you. They speak through clarity that feels earned, not taught. And as the numbers 27 and 33 emerge together in your field, Libra, this is exactly the frequency you are stepping into now. You've been seeking answers for so long, questioning your timing, your worth, your place in the bigger picture. But these two numbers aren't about seeking anymore. They're about becoming. When 27 appears, it often brings the energy of maturity, not the kind measured in years, but the kind that comes from experience, reflection, and choosing growth when it wasn't easy. You've lived through the lessons that softened you, reshaped you, and taught you how to hold space for more than just your own journey. And now, you begin to notice how your presence alone becomes a guidepost for others. Without forcing, without fixing, just by being rooted in the truth of your lived wisdom. Then comes 33, the master teacher, in numerology. But it doesn't come to declare that you've arrived or that you must lead in the traditional sense. Instead, it invites you into a deeper responsibility, the responsibility to live in alignment. To walk your talk. To live your clarity out loud, not to prove anything, but to allow it to ripple through others. Because when you live from a place of internal harmony, it naturally extends to your relationships, your work, and your energy. It's not about teaching with your words. It's about teaching with your example. You may find that people begin turning to you, not because you have all the answers, but because your presence feels calming. It's not a burden. It's a reflection of who you've become. The star and the Empress in tarot echo this beautifully. One is about hope and healing, the other about creation and nurturing. When these two cards appear together, they represent someone who is no longer striving for validation, but offering space for life to unfold with grace. In your relationships, this shows up as a shift away from needing to win affection or attention. You're learning to receive love that doesn't come with conditions. You don't have to perform for approval or adjust to someone else's expectations. The love that meets you now will match your energy because you've stopped pretending. And that authenticity is magnetic. You don't need to chase love. You only need to allow it to recognize you. Financially, this is also a window for reactivation. That idea you shelved months, or even years, ago. It may return to you now, not as a fantasy, but as a real, grounded possibility. The timing wasn't wrong back then. You simply weren't ready yet. Now, with the clarity and experience you hold, you can revisit it from a higher place. Watch for unexpected invitations or synchronicities. They may appear quietly, but they carry weight. You'll know the difference between distraction and direction. To support this energetic elevation, give yourself space to listen. Start with something simple, a sacred 33 minutes each day where you disengage from noise. No checking your phone, no answering to other people's needs. Just you, with a pen, with your breath, or walking under the sky. This practice isn't indulgent. It's essential. It recenters your nervous system, recharges your perspective, and grounds you in who you are when no one is watching. And as this internal alignment becomes stronger, remember something gentle. You don't have to know everything to be on the right path. Sometimes, the most sacred wisdom is lived, not explained. A wise life doesn't need to be loud to be heard. It simply needs to be consistent. You are no longer in the season of proving. You are in the season of anchoring. Keep moving with grace, Libra. The world is catching up to the frequency you've already chosen. Wealth doesn't always arrive with a trumpet or a spotlight. Sometimes, it tiptoes in when you finally stop chasing, when your nervous system is calm, and your spirit is still enough to receive. Libra, your journey isn't about proving your worth or outperforming the world. It's about remembering that the truest abundance flows to those who walk in harmony, with themselves, with others, and with the rhythm of life itself. Through every step of this video, we've explored energies that weren't meant to entertain, but to awaken. The numbers 5, 11, 14, 20, 27, and 33 weren't just lucky guesses from the universe. They are reflections of how far you've come, how deeply you've grown, and how much more aligned you are now with your own inner truth. Each of them holds a lesson, a nudge, a vibration, and if you've been paying attention, you've likely felt certain moments land a little closer to home. Maybe number 14 reminded you that your strength isn't in choosing between your heart and your mind, but in letting both coexist. Or maybe 33 whispered a deeper truth to your soul, that you don't need to teach the world with noise, your energy speaks for itself. Whatever message found you today, trust that it was meant for you. And if one number stood out above the rest, take a moment and type it in the comments below. Let the universe know, I see it. I receive it. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror. It reflects your capacity to create a life that doesn't just look balanced, but feels balanced. A life where you no longer measure your value by how much you do, or how well you please others, but by how consistently you honor what matters most to you. That is real wealth. That is energetic richness. And Libra, you've been building it slowly, gently, and beautifully. If something inside you shifted while watching this, pause for a moment. Breathe. Say to yourself, I am exactly where I need to be. Because you are. You don't need to rush. You don't need to compare. What's meant for you will always find its way, when you're no longer trying to force it. Let harmony become your strategy. Let peace become your new power move. And from a place of gratitude, let me say this, thank you. Thank you for being here, for lending your presence to this space, and for allowing me to walk beside you in this moment of alignment. Every like you leave, every comment you post, every share or subscription you offer, it doesn't just grow this channel. It keeps this sacred conversation going. It keeps this space alive with meaning. And it reminds me, and everyone watching, that we're never walking alone. So before you go, let's close with a question that might stay with you long after the screen fades. What if true abundance isn't something you have to chase, but something you simply allow? And what if the more you let yourself live in alignment, the more everything you've ever needed begins to rise and meet you? If this video resonated with you, take a moment to share it with someone who needs to feel seen. Tap that like button to anchor this message deeper into your field. And subscribe if you haven't already, so we can keep growing together. You're not just a sign of balance, Libra. You are the balance. Let the world feel it. Let yourself feel it. And let the harmony you create speak louder than anything you could ever say.